We need more, we need some more, and it just never stops. It's like a society here, and a culture where the appetite continues to grow, and it just never ends. What happens? And we get caught up into working more to have more, and some of the things that we need, it's beyond some of the things that we need. It's a strong drawing, and when you're in it, you almost like go into this trance, so to speak, when you get into the culture and the country and the way it's running, and the chaos and the moving and the changes, the technology. You get the point. So Jesus starts off with the negative aspect of things before he moves into the positive. And this is highly relevant for his listeners at that time, okay? Which makes it also relevant for us today, as we're going to see. We're going to strip this down and get down to the heart of it and look at it, because it's very much words for us today to live by and be transformed by. So, he was talking about the futility of this life. Everything is broken, finite. Nothing we can cling to or look to is secure 100% in this life other than Christ. Things can be there and gone. Things can be, a part of our life, and then it changes in our life. So we have to understand that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever, and he is our foundation. Jesus spoke of two houses, one upon the sand and one upon the rock, right? And the one that was upon the rock was the one that was able to stand rather than the storms that came its way. And that's where we want to be, the power of the Holy Spirit. So Jesus is referring to one's clothing, food supply, as well as gem and precious metals. In that culture, that's what they would be concerned with, and I'm sure some of that we're still concerned with. Even their garments were considered to be a part of one's wealth in the Middle East. So this is their possessions. Jesus reminds them that all garments will succumb to the moth. So think about that for a moment. So material things decay over time. You understand that, okay? Please stay with me here on this, because we're going to break this down and then unpack it more. The word rust here translates from a word which means eating, so it's a spoiling, actually, of food. I thought the rust is the treasure part. I always make the association, but that means the food that would spoil. So Jesus says, okay, your garment, that will eventually deteriorate. The food you're going to have, some of that will spoil. So what else is he saying here? Okay. He's talking also about how their grain supplies would ultimately succumb to rats, mice, worms, and so forth. So nothing in this life is secure, safe, 100%. Okay. Back in that culture, they would take their valuables and they would hide them or bury them into the walls of their houses. And so then, when robbers came in, they would break through the walls and steal their treasure. Okay. So what do you take from all of that? You take the fact that nothing, again, in this life is permanent. Okay? So we don't have to get so focused on the things that Jesus is talking about, even though they apply to our lives to a certain degree. But nothing in this life is permanent. So this is what we have to understand here. Jesus is talking to people in such a way as to convict them in their present lives in a powerful way. So let's get into this here and break this down. Let's look at verse 19. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on the earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. So you saw everything that I highlighted there when I went through the different aspects of what people steal and take and what spoils and what doesn't. Okay, right, you're with me. Verse 20. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. Okay, so now we have the positive side of what Jesus is going to be talking about here. So this is the idea, he's condemning the idea of a lot of material things and that being our God and so forth. Then he's coming in another direction now and saying, store up riches in heaven, which is eternal. Okay? So as we look at this, Jesus is giving them the reasons that this stuff is going to fall apart. So let me get down to the heart of this and begin to look at this. Jesus would say eventually in this passage, where your heart is, where your treasure is, there will be your heart. And we're going to look at it this morning, because I want to encourage you this morning to begin thinking about how you can love Jesus more. How he can be your treasure. How he can be the one that you adore above all things. That he is the one that we pursue with all of our hearts. That our hearts aren't satisfied until we get close to him by the power of the Holy Spirit. So he's drawing and calling to all of us. And that word treasure actually is something that's inclusive in the Greek term. So in other words, it's not just about money, even though money can be part of it. Our family can be our focus. Our jobs can be our identity and focus. Even church can become an identity that you focus and get your peace from, not Christ, but the church situation. A lot of things we hold to so tightly, and Jesus is saying, don't hold to those things so tightly. So the word treasures here is, again, broad, and whatever it can be in your life, whether it's television, whether it's people, whether it's circumstances, whatever it can be in your life that's distracted you from knowing Jesus more closely, more intimately. So as we look at this and unpack it, it's the temporal versus the eternal. The temporal versus the eternal. This is what I found out in life. When you begin to focus on the eternal, like Paul says, set your affections on things above, right? Not on things of the earth. When your heart and your focus is the eternal, the temporal will begin to make more sense to you. You can cope better with the temporal. You can adjust better with the temporal. So a lot of times we are so focused on the temporal, what's around us, and my needs being met, am I happy, that we're not focusing on the eternal. You see, we were made for God. We were made to bring him pleasure. We were made to know him intimately and be changed by him and to worship him and to share this life with him. So when we lose focus on that, and we're focusing on all the things that are around us and holding tightly to those things, we begin to create more suffering for ourselves, more heartache, more difficulty, more problems in our life. The more you try to balance life and try to hang on to all these things in the wrong way, the more it takes over your life, the more fighting you have to do to preserve them. I joke around sometimes about this, but a friend of mine one time was so worried about money all the time. And he built up his savings account, worried about money, focusing on money, so forth, so on. Eventually, his wife took all his money and moved to Alaska. You can't focus too much on anything. You see? See, we are called to have much more than these material things in our life as followers of Jesus. We are called to walk with him hand in hand, to be changed by him, to be transformed by him. He calls to us, and they call it the divine romance, where we grow in our affection with God, and he calls us, we call to him, and we share this beauty, and it's called relationship with God. But we're so focused on what's around us, and that word entangles the word that Paul used, which speaks so highly to what we're talking about here. It's not wrong to have things, but it's wrong to get entangled in things, and they become your focus and your so forth. And you're trying to, rather than focus on Christ, we're focused on things around us. So, as we look at things here, we have the saying by Jesus in verse 21, "But where your treasure is, your heart will be there also." I had some thoughts that came across from something greatly out. I thought it's really powerful. It's about how we can treasure Christ. Now, that's an interesting word to use, isn't it? Treasure Christ. You know, when we understand that this is not about obedience, it's about affection. It's about love for him, which produces the obedience in our life. Jesus said if we love him, we'll obey his commandments. So this higher love that God calls us to is something that's so deep. And the more we love Jesus, the more we're going to want to be like him, the more we're going to want to honor him. Okay? But if you have no love for Christ, you can't expect obedience. If you're obeying for the wrong reasons, it's just the same as not obeying, right? So, how much time do you spend pursuing earthly things compared to how much time you spend seeking God? That's interesting, isn't it? That spoke to me a little bit and convicted my heart some. Think about that. Again, where your treasure is, there will be your heart also. And what I found in my studies is that the heart is used in our culture in a much different way. The heart is like, this thing right here, right? Then we have the metaphorical aspect of it, which is what? Love is affection, kindness, love. Valentine's Day, there's hearts everywhere, right? that is even closer to what the Bible talks about. The heart is the will. It's the inner part of a person. It's that part of them that causes them to make decisions where we choose right or wrong, to follow God or reject God. All these things internally are in that place of the will and the volition of man. And all that stuff comes to this place in the seat of our emotions, the center of our being. That is the heart. In other words, whatever you're consumed with, that's your God. Whatever takes up most of your time, whatever takes up most of the things in your heart is your God. It can be children, it can be a movie set, it can be Netflix, it can be whatever it may be. Whatever we put before God becomes an idol. Right. And we diminish our love for God through that process. So, how much time do we spend doing our hobbies, watching TV? Again, all these things are wonderful and I recommend it. But do we love Jesus more? Are our hearts more open to Jesus than they are to the other things around us? So one of the beauties of the Christian life is to be free in Christ, to enjoy things, but not to be controlled by things. You see, true freedom is looking at the thing that tries to hold you captive and walking away from it. People say, well, I'm free, I can do whatever I want. Not really. You do whatever your flesh wants. And that's not really true freedom. When Jesus said, the Son shall make you free, you shall be